Today on the Transplant Helper, we're going to be discussing IVIG treatments. Now, if you're not exactly familiar with what that is, or you've been wanting to better understand how IVIG treatments relate to you and I as transplant patients, go ahead and stay tuned. Hey folks, welcome to the Transplant Helper again today. My name is Jim Merle, and today we're going to be discussing a topic that, to be totally honest with you, I've been kind of putting off for a while. And my basic excuse to that is I've been trying to get my ducks in a row, trying to get a better grasp, a better handle and understanding on exactly what IVI treatments were and how they relate to us as transplant patients. So anyway, if you've been requesting this video, here it finally is. I hope you'll find a little bit of benefit out of this as you make your way through the video. Now, let me say in the beginning of that, before I go any farther, as a disclaimer, you ought to be reminded I am not a medical doctor, okay? I'm not a medical doctor. I have no kind of medical background whatsoever, so please don't take the information I give you today as someone who's in the medical field. Simply take it as someone who has been there and is doing that. However, in this case, I need to add to that, I've never taken an IVIG treatment. I've been blessed. I've not even met with rejection yet, so it's not something I've had to deal with. And so because of that, I've called on a friend of mine here. You see on the screen behind me, her name is Victoria. Victoria runs her own YouTube channel called Lemons and Lyme, and that Lyme is like Lyme disease, like you would get from a tick. She runs her own YouTube channel called Lemons and Lyme, and she is currently taking IVIG treatments in order to help to treat her illness, which is basically an immune deficient disease. And that's why we're going to really get into this in a few moments. But I promise you the information she gives in a series of videos, we're just going to see a clip here, definitely will help you to better understand IVIG treatments from someone who has been there and, as I like to say, is currently doing that. So Victoria is going to be talking to us in just a few moments. And to you, Victoria, thank you so much for allowing me to use these clips to help the community better understand. Now, with that said, we're going to be discussing today's topic from basically 5 perspectives, and we're going to be using those old adage type questions of who, what, where, when, and why. Now, whether or not we'll get through all of those, I can't tell you, but we are going to be answering the questions who, what, where, when, and why today, hopefully, and in the hopes of understanding what an IVIG treatment is. Now, let's start with the one that's on the top most commonly. Who can benefit from an IVIG treatment? Well, in general, most of those who receive IVIG treatments and need them are those people who deal with immune deficiency disorders. And that could be pretty much anything like we have here with Victoria, Lyme disease. It could be any other thing in the world. It can be those who are born or even have been acquired some kind of immune deficient disease, which allows them and causes them to need an IVIG treatment, which is kind of a reset button being placed on the immune system. Now, in addition to that, and for us as transplant patients, the IVIG treatment most commonly comes in when you have someone like us who have been placed on immune deficiency therapy, like to prevent rejection, and then when those episodes of more moderate to severe rejection come up, they might offer an IVIG treatment in order to stop that or reverse that to keep from having your organ being damaged. And so when you answer the question who, basically the who can be us, and it typically comes in because of a potential rejection episode, and they're preventing or trying to stop that from happening. Now, in answering the second question there that's most common, who, then what is an IVIG treatment? Well, in short, IVIG stands for Intravenous Immunoglobulin Therapy. Now, that's a mouthful. I probably won't even try to say it again. But in my terms, it basically deals with people who need their immune systems to be reset, okay? That's what this infusion does. And it is an IV infusion, but it allows the immune system to kind of be put on reset or to hit that reset button in order that it will stop, in our case, stop trying to reject those organs. And again, if you're on a mild rejection type thing, like an R1, maybe even a lower R2, you'll probably never see or hear about these treatments because you're probably just going to have some medication adjustments, have some rest and relaxation basically prescribed to you, and you might just pass right through that on your own. But if you get more toward the more moderate to severe, like a higher R2 or an R3 rejection, which is severe, they just might bring this up. They might offer you something like IVIG. And I promise you, if you can tolerate it, and we're going to talk more about that later, it is a pretty good option, an expensive option, but a pretty good option for stopping an episode of rejection and potentially preventing it from occurring again, which rejection is that nasty, scary word we never want to hear as transplant patients. And with that explanation, I want to stop right now and turn it over to Victoria right behind me because, again, as I said, she's someone who's currently been there and is doing that. So Victoria can give us a better explanation as to what it is, and I love what she's going to say about it. So I'm going to let you watch this quick clip, and we'll be right back. Here you go, Victoria.
Basically, if you don't know what IVIG is, it's IV immunoglobulin therapy. Immunoglobulins are what make up your immune system, like IgG, IgM, IgA are the three big ones. There's a lot of subclasses, IgE, there's a lot of them, but immunoglobulins make up your immune system, and they are, when you donate blood or plasma, they can be spun out and then tested for not having infection and HIV and everything, and then they're cleaned and used to infuse into other people for this type of therapy. And the way I like to think about it is basically like I'm getting a donor immune system, or almost like a blood transfusion, but an immune system transfusion. It's kind of the easiest way to understand it and explain it.
Well, thank you so much, Victoria. That was plainly said. And again, her YouTube channel is Lemons and Lyme. I'll link it here in the description below, as well as toward the end of the video. I'll put one of those round buttons up on the screen. If you're watching in the YouTube app, you can click that and go directly over to her channel to watch more of her videos, because she has a ton of wonderful information, much of which does include IVIG treatment. As a matter of fact, I think she vlogs her whole experience with it. Definitely entertaining, but more importantly, definitely educating as far as letting us know. But I really like what she said there at the very end of that. That was as plain and simple as it gets. So that kind of answers the questions who and what. Where do you have these treatments? Well, 9 times out of 10, the IVIG, or intravenous immunoglobulin, I shouldn't even try to say it again, the IVIG treatments take place in the hospital. Now, you don't want necessarily be placed in the hospital, say as in for days or anything. More than likely, you might be in and out of the hospital kind of as an outpatient. And that's because they're going to bring you in, hook up the IVs to whatever lines you have or whatever lines they install. They're going to run this treatment through over the course of hours. It's not it's not an easy thing to do, but they're going to run this treatment over the course of hours. And in doing that, you're probably going to have to stay the day or maybe even stay overnight. Now, it could be the case, and there are some cases where they keep you in the hospital for longer than that, and that's really depending on how aggressive they need to be with that. And sometimes you're in the hospital not because of the treatment itself, but because they're awaiting results of the treatment to see if it worked for you. Now, IVIG treatments can come with quite a bit of side effects. As a matter of fact, it has taken decades really for doctors and centers and hospitals to get more comfortable with giving these treatments and passing these out, because they can come with some difficulty. Things like, really rejecting the drug itself, that's possible. Of course, that can bring on stomach pains, headaches, flu-like symptoms. It can make you feel like trash. You can have reactions, breakouts, rashes. I know, stop, it's like a bad commercial, but really it's not all that bad, because they have some things that they can offer you right with the treatment, which help to counteract some of that. And one of the main 2 things they do is, one, they might give you a very high dose of intravenous, even a Tylenol. And that's just going to help with the achiness, the pains, that sort of thing. And second, and more important, they're going to give you higher doses of some sort of a antihistamine. Benadryl comes to mind, and they oftentimes give large doses of prescription type Benadryl there, and that helps to combat some of that. But again, the reason you're in the hospital for any period of time, whether it's over a day or the course of a day and night, whatever, is because they're going to monitor that very, very closely. And one of the things you need to understand is that while they're giving the treatment, you need to really, really be aware of how you're feeling every single moment, and be willing to speak up and report that to whoever's administering the treatment, and make sure that they're doing the right thing for you. And for most of us, that involves giving those Tylenol/Benadryl doses, as well as maybe slowing the treatment down or drawing it out over a longer period of time. Depending on how many grams of the IVIG they give you, they might run it over a slower time. And oftentimes, some of the side effects that occur if they run it too quickly will not occur if they draw or stretch that out. So just keep that in mind. So that answers the question, who, what, where in the hospital. When would they give it? Well, as I've said already 2 or 3 times, the main purpose for giving it to us as transplant patients is to help prevent or stop episodes of rejection. Now, maybe you've actually had rejection, and of course, they're dealing with that in a moment, or maybe they've just seen some numbers come back. Maybe on AlloMap, which I've got videos out you can check out here about AlloMap. Maybe in your CAS, your biopsies, they've seen some numbers, some stains, as they call it, come back that lead them to believe, maybe your blood work leads them to believe that you are at higher risk or potential for a rejection episode getting started. And so they might even then say, look, we're going to just go ahead and do some IVIG treatments as well as some other things. Plasmapheresis sometimes happens then too. But we're going to go ahead and do that because that can stop or prevent this episode from coming on. So that's kind of when they decide to give those things. Now, again, as they're doing that, just keep in mind that the doctors are doing the best they can for you. So even though it might seem uncomfortable, even though it might seem something that's kind of hard to get through, you can do it and you can get through it. So who, what, where, when, why? Why? They're trying to save your life, okay? They're trying to put forth their best effort to save your life. So who, what, where, when, why, now, how? How are the IVIG treatments done? Well, I've already pretty much covered this. Why I said in the beginning I may not cover all of these, but just to repeat a few things, I reckon they do it intravenously. They're typically going to do it through not necessarily just a general IV line like they might place in your hand or in your arm or wherever else you didn't want it. They're generally going to do that through either a PIC or a port or a central type line, something like that. So if they foresee that you're going to need IVIG treatments, they're probably going to put a larger cannula line into you in order to put these things in. And they need that for a few things. One, they don't need veins blowing. They don't need, those little veins in your arms popping or blowing out while they're doing this. They need a substantial vein to put this in because it is a blood type product. It is a heavier, thicker type product in which they're putting in. And they're basically going to be doing that over periods of time, whether it be faster, slower, whatever. They've got to get the rate up, okay? So the larger lines are going to help with that. Now, I hadn't mentioned this, but I will throw this in at the end kind of as a bonus. Most of the time, IVIG treatments are given in series, and so it's something you might take 1 week and then come back in another week and come back in another week, or they might spread them out over the course of 1 month here, 1 month there. They're going to give a series of treatments, and the number will vary depending on what the purpose is, but it all surrounds the resetting of that immune system, telling your immune system that's currently in you right now, your immune system, like Jim, my immune system, stop what you're doing. Don't be messing with that organ. It's not your enemy. Let's send in some blood product, which will help to teach our immune system again how to deal with that organ. Hopefully that will be benefit in that. I appreciate you watching today. I want to remind you again, please check out Victoria's channel right here. She does an awesome set of videos that relate to a lot of different things, which any of us as chronic illness patients could really understand and, kind of feel and relate to. But particularly, she has that series on IVIG, which I will put the entire playlist series that I put together in the link in the description. You can check that out because I promise you, her information on this is a wealth of information, something you're definitely going to benefit. So, Victoria, thanks again for allowing me to use the video clip a moment ago, and I hope that you get tons of people coming over and checking out your videos as a result of this sort of kind of collaboration. Thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, each and every one of you, please stay stronger, friends.